This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening, everyone. It is just after 6 o'clock on Tuesday, April 20th. I will call this regular meeting of council to order, and I would like to acknowledge that we are respectful that this meeting is being held on Treaty 1 territory, traditional lands of the Cree and the Anishinaabe, and the traditional homeland of the Métis people. Some of council are attending this meeting virtually. So on the screen, we have Councillor Randall, Councillor Kumka, and Councillor Axworthy. And around the table,
Councillor Bartmanovich.
Brendan Moore, CAO.
and Penny McMorris, Mayor. So adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda be adopted with the following changes. Garbage pickup requirement for bear-resistant bins in 2022. Amending speed zones on PTH 59 and PR 504. Municipal Service Delivery Improvement Program application and quote for the bakery ramp. Are there any, well, can I have a mover, please? Mike, thank you. Second? Steve, thank you. Are there any further additions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Next up, the minutes of the April 6th meeting, which have been circulated. Be it resolved that the minutes of the April 6th, 2021 regular council meeting be adopted as presented. May I have a mover? Erwin, thank you. Graham, second. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Next up are our committee reports. We have the delegations. So first on the list is Public Works, Mike.
Public Works, thank you very much. Public Works would always like to, it is always mindful of reminding everyone that garbage pickup is on Mondays, except where Monday is a holiday, and then the Tuesday, of course, immediately following the holiday is the pickup day. Our guys have started grading roads. Our annual springtime grading has begun. Public Works is also working on reported dead and dangerous trees for removal. These are the trees that that residents are calling in and making e-service requests that these trees be addressed, and the folks at Public Works are addressing them as quickly as they can. Regular maintenance and startup procedures have started for the VB water treatment plant. That means summer's coming. And because summer is coming, the summer plumbing supplies for the distribution system have been purchased and are ready to be implemented. Steaming of culverts has now been completed throughout the RM. Water samples from the well at the fire hall and the Albert Beach pump house continue to be tested monthly throughout the winter and all months of the year. The generator for the Albert Beach pump house was picked up, and Public Works is working with the electrician to have it installed so that there will be uninterrupted water service at the Albert Beach pump house as well. A reminder that e-service requests can be made at the RM of Victoria Beach webpage, and folks phoning Public Works, contacting counselors, although it's what we want you to do. Nothing gives your request a better chance of being done than by submitting an e-service request. Nothing gets lost, nothing gets miscommunicated, nothing gets mistranslated. It's basically you telling Public Works what needs to be done. An electronic record is created of that request, and Public Works will then look into that request as it gets to it. And finally, please, if you haven't already, sign up for VB Connect so you will always be in the know for important information that the RM must get out to residents. Okay, you can find a way to sign up on the webpage, or you can contact the office Monday to Friday during the business hours, and one of our cheerful staff will be more than happy to help you get signed up with VB Connect. And I think that's all Public Works has to say.
Great. Thank you very much. Finance, Mr. Kumka.
Good evening, everyone. It's always a pleasure to report on the financial situation in Victoria Beach. It continues to be in good shape. My role as finance chair is pretty much to monitor the situation. I'm not involved in day-to-day decisions, but I again compliment our executive and our staff. They continue to deliver cost-effective services to the municipality. This is a catch-up report because we didn't get reports for January and February with the year end. So these are the results as at the end of March. The graph below shows our balance sheets listing reserves, operating surpluses, accounts receivable, etc. The green bar is our reserves, and they have increased to $790,658, and that's up $140,000 over last year. Part of that increase was due to the fact that we have increased our reserve in the budget to begin to plan for some future acquisitions in terms of equipment replacements. Our cash balance, which is the gray bar, has increased by $159,000 over last year. I always worry about cash because that's a dollar in your pocket is a friend, and our cash position has increased nicely. Our operating deficit right now, at this time of the year, we run a deficit because we have very little incoming revenue, but we have ongoing expenses. But I'm pleased to report that the deficit at the end of March was down $59,000 over last year. So that means our operating results are improving. If you combine our cash reserves, our cash and receivables, which is the yellow line, you'll see that we're at just a little over $1.2 million. And that represents our ability to pay for our ongoing expenses. In accounting terms, that's referred to as your current assets, and they're up $278,000 over last year. So as we go through this period of time where we are encouraging deficits on a monthly operational basis, we still have sufficient resources to pay those. Finally, our tangible capital assets, which is the big blue bar, stands at $2.4 million. It's down a little bit over last year, and that's primarily an accounting entry for amortization. Now this month, my report, I've introduced a secondary graph. Can you move that up? I know this is a little hard to see, but I wanted to, I've been keeping track of figures since we came into office in August of 2018. And you'll see from the graph that the results are pretty much repetitive. The operating deficit line, I'll back up. The main line right through the middle is the green line, and that represents our reserves. And you'll see that line is pretty flat, and that reflects on the stability of our reserves. Our operating surplus / deficit in red, you'll notice it's in a predictable cycle. That red line peaks in June, and we end up the financial year in December with a small surplus. So it goes down, it goes up, goes down. It's kind of just like a nice wave. Accounts receivable line in orange, that big tall one at every June, it peaks in June when our taxes are billed out. And our cash line, which is the yellow line, peaks about a month later when the cash starts to roll in. Our tangible capital assets line in blue has grown steadily and slowly over the last 3 years and reflects our new equipment purchases. So again, municipal finances, they're kind of dull, but it's kind of nice to be able to report that, the steady repeatability is a positive reflection on how our assets and services are being provided and maintained. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Erwin. Great. I will move on to protective services. Mike, would you like to do the police?
Well, a man said, never follow a kid or animal act. That was quite the presentation, Erwin. Thank you. For the month of March, there were 73 call-outs for service reported by Chief Clark and the constabulary. They responded, of those 73, they responded to 1 alarm. They were asked for assistance by the RCMP 3 times. There were 3 bylaw infractions that were reported and ticketed. 2 COVID calls, folks. Don't forget, we're still under COVID protocols. Of concern was the fact that we did have 6 break and enters in the municipality in March, and that's one of the main reasons why we did bring some of the seasonal constables on early, so that we can enhance our patrols of the municipality. Instead of just in the truck and trucks and driving around, the police have also taken 2 more foot patrols where they're walking areas of the municipalities. They have a far better opportunity to catch potential scofflaws at it. One domestic call was received. There were 15 highway traffic incidences, 19 special attention calls. And special attention calls is when they're made aware of specific situations that require special attention. Not to sound completely nefarious, one of those special attentions is the fact that while we're still in the off season, Sappy's store towards the end of the night, they may have only 1 employee working, and so the police will make sure that they pay a little bit more attention to that, just to make sure that all is well there. There were 4 call-outs for suspicious activity, and there were 5 traffic stops. So busy again. I can't stress it enough. Be a good neighbor. Watch for your neighbors. 204-756-2322, 724. An officer is standing by waiting for your call.
You might have to get dressed.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Do you have a fire report for us?
Yes, I do. For the first time in a little while, actually, because things have been rather quiet. There was a total of 1 call out last month. It was a chimney fire in the RM of Alexander. The fire was out when the fire crews arrived. They checked the structure with a thermal imaging camera, fun toys, and saw some visible smoke, but there were no other signs of fires. The owner was directed to have the chimney inspected by a qualified inspector before putting it back into service. The fire department continues to recognize safe and safe distance protocols, and only gather for emergencies, and they continue to inspect their gear and equipment during the month. Of course, right now is one of the best times to check your chimney. If you haven't had it done in a few years, the recommendation is usually to have your chimney swept at least once a year. Usually, if you take a look at newer models, they recommend twice a year. So once at the end of the season, and then once midway through. The last thing you want is a chimney fire, because it's the one fire that you never expect. And yeah, aside from that, it's pretty quiet with fire. It's not much more to report than that. Oh, sorry, I would just note one more thing, which is that for anybody who is going up to the cabin, I know that it's a little bit cooler. If you're not necessarily familiar with how to dispose of your ashes, don't immediately throw them out. Put them into a fireproof bin. If you had a fire the night before, leave it in a fireproof area and leave it for about 24 hours, because those embers can still be burning. And even though right now we have had some precipitation, especially when things start to dry out again, it can be very dangerous to throw those coals out, even if you had a fire last night. They stay hot for about a 12-hour period, and just to be safe.
Good point.
Thank you. Special events. The RM is cooperating, or not the right word, is it? With the Electronics Recycling Association for free electronics shredding and recycling event on Saturday, June 19th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thank you, Mike, for putting it up on the Facebook page. I'll be bringing some posters and putting them up around the beach and passing it along to other social media, Victoria Beach social media sites.
The Facebook page, RM of Victoria Beach.
So that's the only special event I have. I can't imagine hosting any special events this summer. Right now. You know, even the Vincent Memorial, I haven't had any requests for it, but you know, we can't be there to supervise and monitor the crowds, and
Unfortunately.
so I just don't know that. I think this is going to be another relatively quiet summer.
I think that this is this is the year, not last year. Last year we shouldn't have been doing anything, no matter what. But this is like the 1 year where we really don't know. It all depends as to what happens with the vaccinations, and so I think that especially with special events, it's going to be a day by day basis, and maybe go get your vaccination so we can have special events again.
There you go.
May 10th for me.
Thanks, Steph.
Okay, thank you very much. Back to Mike for the golf course.
I was hoping that I was going to have a report for this week, but something happened between the time that I spoke to Carl and tonight. It's about 7 inches. I have no golf report.
I can't understand that. All right, we'll move on to Mr. Randall, who I know has a municipal building report.
Oh, yes, indeed. As usual, my municipal buildings report is presented in point form to avoid getting bogged down in too much specifics. And I've submitted it to council several days ago. Since my last report, orders have been approved and placed for the purchase of the Albert Beach generator. And thank you, Mike, for acknowledging that it arrived safe and sound yesterday before noon. We've also provided for the installation of the generator and a suitable propane tank to power it, and upgrades to the bakery wiring because of safety issues. And quotes are being obtained. It's kind of tough to get quotes these days, but it has to be done for the work that has been budgeted, and also for an accessibility grant application that's coming up. This covers various projects, including electric operator for the bakery door, a second accessible ramp for the bakery, which will be the subject of a resolution added to this evening's agenda, upgrading the handrails on the municipal stairs and ramps, massive project that could go on for years, upgrading the accessibility standard of the entrance ramp at the Moonlight Inn, replacement of the steps at number 4 Bayview, replacing steps at Clubhouse Beach number 2 location, minor carpentry repairs to the Moonlight Inn, accessibility to the beach at David Road, accessibility to the beach at Pier Point. We're doing something about the solar lighting at selected intersections. And I've also got, last but not least, repairs to the Red Wing stairs. I won't make excuses, but it should be noted that obtaining valid quotes at this time is made pretty tough by the extreme volatility of materials prices, especially lumber. But we're forging on and should have some numbers that council can cope with or deal with in the near future. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. You're always very busy. Much appreciated. Erwin, do you have a report for the doctor?
Yes, I do. I am pleased to report at this time that the doctors committee are planning to have a doctor's clinic operating this summer. I wish to thank the efforts of Dr. Carrie Martin Barnes and Kathy McKibben, who have secured a slate of doctors that are going to be coming out to the beach this summer. A recent decision by one doctor to relocate outside of Manitoba has created a vacancy, but efforts are underway to secure a replacement. The committee is still mindful of the health regulations, and every effort will be made to comply with the provincial guidelines. At this point in time, again, we're concerned that the health guidelines are in a state of flux, so we're optimistic that we will have a functioning doctor's clinic this summer, which will be, I'm sure, of great relief to many of the residents of our community.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
And thanks to the committee. Good work.
Communications? No.
Continue to keep the Facebook page updated with all the news that's fit to print.
Sorry, I just suppose that on communications, the one big thing is that Brad, the fire chief, has had an opportunity to sit down and review the Connect system. So he is going to be, I've arranged a training, a 1-hour training program with him. So that should be done by now. If not, it's going to happen later on this week. And then pretty soon, once he's fully familiar with how to set up the emergency zones, then we'll be able to sit down with everybody involved and map out exactly how everybody will react in an emergency situation. So either for a tornado or a fire, depending on where it happens in the RM, which is one of the reasons why it's so important that everybody sign up for a Connect. So then that way, if there is such an emergency, then you know exactly what to do in that situation, dependent on where the fire is, because Brad will have the ability to select a preset evacuation plan that's been built into the system, and it'll be the RM will be cut out into different zones. So in that way, let's say that we assume that a fire is going to happen on the northwest corner, then you will be told what to do if that is in fact the case, or if it's on the southwest corner or wherever it is in the RM, there'll be a preset plan for that. So we're finally being able to start moving forward with getting that done.
Thank you.
And don't forget that Connect can send you important information via text, by email, or by phone, whether it's a cell phone or a landline. So it is the most expeditious way for residents to get important information from the RM.
And hopefully we'll be sending out an update to residents this week, right after this meeting. Okay, thank you very much. No report for the summer information office. Graham, do you have anything for the building inspector?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Curtis has submitted his report, which covers 2 main dwellings, 3 additions, 1 garage, 3 bunkhouses, 1 shed, 1 renovation, and 1 deck, for a value of permits of $1,352,400. So I'm pleased and surprised to see that the permits are continue to roll in at quite a rapid pace. The fees that we collected associated with these permits were $9,792. And Curtis has added he'd like to offer his congratulations to the RM on its first $1 million build. But with the rising cost of wood, we may see $1 million sheds before long. The more the merrier. And that, with Curtis's help, is my building inspector's report. Thank you.
Just one thing that I'd like to note on that is I think it's really important that we start issuing or making it mandatory to take out a permit to install a cistern or a well. Because right now we have no idea as to how many actual permanent residents or year-round residents that we have. And if we started taking out those permits, we could get a much better idea. I think it's really important that we do a general census so that we know exactly what our demographic for our RM is. But in the meantime, I think that we really need to move forward with mandating that there are permits for installing cisterns and wells. And I think that this year is a perfect example of that information being so critical.
Okay.
When they do get a cistern, the plumber or the installer takes the permit out.
Takes out the permit.
It's through the province, I understand.
Yeah.
And with well, I'm not sure.
Well, the digger would need some sort
The
of.
digger would
permit
need
again.
some kind of permit, but there's no, that's why I guess there's no municipal permit for these because they pay provincially or.
It's covered. And
You know-
further to that, Penny, every well, however old it may be, every well in the province of Manitoba is recorded with the province. I learned this years ago. All the various well drillers, the application, the permit they have to take out, and that information is accessible to the public. And I think that's probably something that Curtis can get at every last well, including a 65-year-old one on this property.
Well, specifically, this isn't coming from me. This is coming from our building inspector, Curtis. He was the one who brought this forward to me in the first place, and I think that his reasoning is very logical.
Yeah, I certainly don't disagree with what you're suggesting, but this is an additional check. Perhaps I should acquaint Curtis with the system. But good point, Steve. Thank you.
But even if you have a well
Yeah,
or a cistern, it doesn't mean you're full-time
yeah, permanent
or
or seasonal.
permanent. I have a cistern. My next door neighbors have a well. They're not permanent. I'm almost, but not quite. So I don't know how that's going to
Yeah.
provide that information. But
I'm permanent with a cistern. All of my neighbors who have cisterns are seasonal.
But if Curtis wants that kind of information, I appreciate you bringing that forward. And Graham, I guess you can have a chat with him about it too.
Mhm.
Another good way to get a feel for permanent versus seasonal is we send out tax bills every year, and I would imagine that anybody who lists or considers the Victoria Beach to be the site of permanent residence, that's where they would want their property tax credits and school tax credits applied. And the only way you can do that is to categorically state that your property in Victoria Beach is your primary residence. So that would be a way that we could get a handle on our permanent accounts as well.
There's also a census coming up, and I know there have been ads out for who want to be census workers. So we'll get sort of up-to-date information when that finally gets done. But good. Thank you very much. Accessibility. I've got a focus group virtual meeting coming up the end of April with the Manitoba Accessibility Office to provide input on the customer service standard. I've been working with our accessibility group chairman Rod Bowman and Councillor Randall and our lead hand Trevor Algren to plan for benches at strategic locations. Right now we're focusing on from Bayview to the Village Green. Also locations along the MTS Trail. And I'm sure there are other areas who would appreciate a bench or two.
Mm-hmm.
So again, just an e-service request to Public Works. We've looked at options, and I think Trevor was going to order a couple of inexpensive solar lights as a project to highlight a couple of confusing intersections. Not to highlight the intersection, but to highlight the signage. Again, we know of two in the restricted area, but again, there may be others in the other areas that we're not as aware of. So let us know, let me know. We'll try it out. If we get complaints, we may not carry on, but our goal is just to highlight the signage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've mentioned, thank you, that it is a pilot project, and it's certainly low cost and definitely worth a try.
Yeah. So, and you touched on the handrail options for the municipal stairs. Again, that's a mega project over time. But we will get there.
Some of it starts pretty soon, and the rest of it goes on and on and on. But that's fine. We're getting into that.
And you touched on also the accessibility to a couple beach areas. And
Yep.
we know that's not happening this year. That might be 2022 or 2023, but it's something that we're considering.
You're quite correct, Penny. But as you know, the subject of the get together that we have planned for Friday, we'll have to deal with some of what we expect Rod to put in the application for the accessibility grant. So we have to bulk up items for 2022 by having some numbers that he can attach to them.
Correct. So we're making progress.
Yep, the heat is on.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Steve, Heritage and Trails?
Yep. So I've been referencing that this was coming up for a while. So the winners of the volunteer award for Heritage is Kevin Dubé and Miss Barb Pritchard. The rationale was that Kevin and Barb have been the primary editors of the Victoria Beach Herald community newspaper on a volunteer basis for the past 10 years. In this role, they were responsible for assembling the editorial copy and photography for the weekly community publication. The Herald services a community of over 8,000 seasonal and permanent residents in summer, and has been doing so for 95 consecutive years, making it one of the longest continuously published community newspapers in Canada. So that was the first, and then the second is going to go to Joan Parker Gibson and Margaret Murray Haddad. And the rationale there being that both nominees contributed countless hours in the creation and production of the VB musical in celebration of the 100th anniversary of the RM of Victoria Beach. A conservative estimate of hours each contributed would be 40 hours per week for 52 weeks. Being equal to for June 18th and June 2019, and so they have thousands of hours that they've put forward for the community. And then there was a second thing worth noting, which is that in addition to the work creating and producing the VB musical, each nominee has contributed many volunteer hours to the community of Victoria Beach in the past. And I could go quite on because this nomination is about 5 pages long. So, but I won't read that whole thing out.
Right.
So just a reminder to everybody, we're going to be doing this every year. I heard from some people, because I was surprised that we didn't have more submissions, but apparently people are they're shy about getting recognized for their volunteer time, which I can absolutely understand. But just remember that when you're nominating somebody, it's mostly anonymous. They don't need to know that you're nominating them, and it's just a really great way to show our appreciation for these people who literally put thousands of hours into the community. And I also just wanted to remind everybody that there's still no maximum number of people that you can nominate right now. We'll change that probably next year, but I want to give it a nice, a good amount of room so that anybody who has been doing a lot of work in the past can be nominated. So those are the winners of the volunteer award. For trails, and also talking about heritage, is that I did contact AllNet to try to finally get the 2 pages up and running for heritage and trails. Again, I can't do all the work on my own. It's simply not possible. So when I contacted them, they told me that that they would be contacting the office, and the office has said that apparently AllNet said that they can do the work, but they really can't. I think it's something that we really need to move on, because this has been 4 years in the making. It needs to get done. We need to be able to have the ability to organize things from a central location rather than an external location. If we centralize everything, it means that pictures, artifacts, in terms of trails, mapping, volunteer registration, everything can be centralized. So it's not simply me doing the work. It is whoever's coming down in the future. Everything can be ready for them moving forward. Unfortunately, so much time has been wasted waiting for these sites to be developed that we're sort of like at the last leg here. But like, this is where it is. I'm still waiting for these 2 sites to be up and running, and nothing's happened in 4 years. So I think that we need to sort of start asking why is it that we have a web developer when there's no development of sites?
The pages are up on the
Yes,
website.
the pages are there.
Okay,
Blank
page.
page.
They're blank
You have
pages,
to upload
but
the information.
So what is it that needs to happen, Steve, that they can't do?
So I need a proper volunteer registration list that goes into a database so that all the volunteers can get tracked. It also means that I'm not liable, that that there's some accountability, but we have all the names, all the listings, all what they want to bring to the table to help out. So there's also proper communication with Public Works so that they can that they're not just simply going in and doing work. It also comes down to reports, and proper reports that can get immediately sent over to Public Works if we have it on the system, very much like the reporting system that we already have, but this would be specifically for trails. Then they can identify issues on the trail system that can be sent to Public Works, and Public Works can say that we can either take care of it or we can't, in which case Trails takes over and they can go in and do the work. In terms of heritage, as I said, the registration and uploading of photographs. The last time that I went out to, and this was the final, the crux of the matter, of which I can't donate any more money to the RM, was that I had, I think it was around 200 or 300 photographs, something around there. And to be able to scan them in would have cost me roughly about $1,000. And I wasn't prepared to submit that kind of a bill to the RM, and I don't expect the taxpayers to pay for that. But if an individual wants to submit their own photo, they can scan it and send it in and upload it to a central bank that the municipality would hold. If they want to register an artifact, I can't be the one that's going to all, how many residents do we have? Over 2,000? I can't go to all of those houses and get the artifacts and have my my cabin as a spot where they're all being held. So all of these very basic things, but necessary things, need to be in place so that all of this can move forward.
as AllNet's job.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, that's certainly not AllNet's job.
I don't think, I think regardless of how the page is set up, someone still has to manage and monitor that page.
Mhm.
And that's going to fall
You
to
send
the
the
office.
photos, and the photos get uploaded on the page.
Right.
But I heard, I mean, very real, but I heard several very different requirements there, Steve. I think maybe what we need to do is get those requirements documented, and let's take a look and see who can take care of, or who can be made responsible for addressing each of those requirements, because they are good requirements. But I saw us going way far away from AllNet in terms of all the requirements that
It's not
we
a
have.
matter of managing the page. It's a matter of them setting it up. The office, with respect to our office staff, is not equipped because they've never been trained to do that kind of work to create that page. All that needs to be done is the development of the page. So then that way everybody else can take it over. But in terms of an interactive map, the office has no understanding as to how to put that together. But the last time that we had a representative from AllNet coming over to see whether or not they could do that, they said yes. But then the response was that, oh, the office can do that, but they're not trained in that kind of work. In terms of volunteer registration, again, this is basic development work, but the office is not trained to be able to develop that kind of page. But AllNet does have the ability to do so, to just set it up. From there, absolutely, we can take it over, and from there, it's our responsibility. But you know, you don't buy a car and build it yourself.
I just think this is above and beyond what we should expect. And
It's not the correspondence I've seen from all that. I don't think, I'd have to forward correspondence they sent to us, but
Could we get an overview of the type of training that the office staff has received? And maybe we can make a determination what they can and can't do. And then at least what we can do is we can put a realistic split as to what has to be done. Yeah, if it's a database that's gonna collect volunteer information and such, that's not something that beginner, that newbie is going to what got 19 days, sorry. That a novice web worker is going to easily be able to do. That is a smaller chunk and very specific chunk. If we gave very specific requirements and specifications to all that and said, this is exactly what we need, okay? And what is it going to take to build it and deliver it? And then we can have the staff do only what we know that they are capable of doing, so that we don't fall into these stalemate traps. Again, I think what's happening is that unrealistic expectations are being put on the wrong people. Office staff should know about the municipality and what belongs where. AllNet are the folks that have to develop the boxes, the places that the information goes. That's where their forte is.
and that's what they're saying they've done.
And that's what they're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, well then, we really need to review what they've done, Steve, and we'll take it from there.
It hasn't been 4 years. Let's keep in mind this website has only been.
Yeah, it has been 4
in the
years,
works,
yeah.
Maybe it's been
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and if we could more clearly document or shortlist the items that need to be addressed, perhaps there's even an opportunity for some summer student employment.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
used last year by the community center.
quite frankly, most of my students would be able to be able to develop it. It's completely over my head, but for them, they'd be able to develop the whole thing. So, I mean, I understand where AllNet's coming from. Yeah, if you have some version of website development, you should be able to do some of that. I don't, in terms of that level, and I'm sure that the office staff doesn't. So, I'm sure that they could if they were 16. But last I checked, your office staff is not 16.
Steve, what we need to do is we need to get very clear and concise requirements of what's required, what needs to be done, and then let's split up that list. AllNet has the capability to do this. We have the capability to do this, and let's get the job done.
And there should be a cost involved. If AllNet is setting up these specific pages for, there will be a cost.
Yeah.
And the list should be prioritized as well, accepting that we're not going to be able to nail down every one of them consecutively, some order at which these could be addressed. And yeah, we do have to keep an eye on the costs every step of the way and face the fact that there will be some extra costs associated with this.
So let's clearly define the requirements first, and then it's like a requirements. It's like requirements gathering at the initiation of any project. If you start with bad requirements, you're gonna have a bad project.
All right. Any questions? Thank you very much, Steve. Any questions on any of the reports? Erwin?
I think
Just a question on the,
It's Erwin's turn.
sorry.
just a question on the volunteer recognition. Appreciating that COVID has truncated or made it impossible for us to have any sort of formal recognition, but I think we need to give some thought that when this plague moves on, it might be nice to have some sort of formal recognition for the two groups that have worked so hard, and have it become some sort of an annual event to recognize the wonderful contributions that these people have made, and the future people that will make the contributions going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually defined in the application as to what will be done. Obviously, this year will have to be slightly different, but absolutely there is those provisions to publicly recognize their work.
Great, thank you. Graham?
Erwin beat me to the punch, which he sometimes does. Thank you very much, Erwin. Yeah, I just wanted to, it's appropriate for council to offer their congratulations here and now to the winners of these awards. And I look forward to planning a formal recognition event. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And congratulations, Kevin and Barb, and Joanne, and posthumously Margaret Marie Haddad.
Mhm.
All right, no further questions on reports. All right, be it resolved that the April committee reports be accepted as presented. May I have a mover?
I'll
Mike,
move that.
thank you. Oh, Graham, thank you.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Accounts and finances. Be it resolved, the following list of accounts be approved for payment. Accounts payable checks 9165 to 9202 in the amount of $46,447.22. April 16 payroll in the amount of $31,403.44. And April 16th firefighter payroll in the amount of $4,028.20. May I have a mover? Erwin,
Yeah.
thank you. Second? Steve, thank you. Any discussion?
I have reviewed the list of accounts, and there are no unusual or large amounts in this group of accounts payable.
All right, no further questions, comments?
I mean,
All
I
those-
might only say that it's a bargain to have such a great firefighting crew for that price. So.
All right. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And business arising from the previous meeting. Be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council approved the fire pit permit form and information as revised. May I have a mover, please? Steve, thank you. Second? Rowan, are you scratching your head, or are you going to second that motion?
I thought Graham had seconded that.
All right, Graham did. Sorry, thank you. I didn't see Graham raise his hand. Any further discussion on this permit form and information, which will be on our website and also available in hard copy at the fire hall?
I mean, my only comment is that I really do think that we need to be getting the renters to register, and we also need to attach a cost to the permit. I know that it wouldn't be very popular, but there is a cost associated to the taxpayer. I think that if you pull out a permit of any kind, that you need to have some sort of fee attached to it. But in terms of the renters, that they need to be registering separately and paying for said permit, so that they're paying for the additional work that the firefighters have to go through to recognize that they would have a permit.
I don't know that there's any extra work though, because it's a renter. I mean, once the pit is approved and looked at, inspected, that's the word I'm looking for. It's the pit that really is the issue, not so much whether it's a renter or a taxpayer who can be just as rowdy as the next guy.
we need to know that if there's a problem with the fire pit, it's at 123 9th Avenue, and that's where we're going. And we're going to be talking to the owner about that, whether it's the actual owner or a renter. Someone's going to get a visit about it.
Mike,
Yeah,
where's
but-
9th Avenue?
What's that?
Said, Mike, where's 9th Avenue?
Just west of Sunset. Keep driving.
I do think we need to impress upon the owners of the property that they are ultimately accountable for the actions of their renters. And it would be
Absolutely.
incumbent
I was only
upon
going to
the,
say that.
upon, the owner of the cottage to,
I'm sorry. I'm not sure if Erwin cut out for everybody else, but
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Erwin, did you want to finish up? Because we didn't hear what you just said.
I'm sorry. Just to reiterate, I think it's important that we stress to the owners of the property who rent out their properties that they are ultimately accountable for the actions of their tenants, of the renters. And the landlord needs to impress upon the renters of the need to adhere to the regulations, whether it be municipal regulations on other matters, but specifically on the operation of the fire pit. In the summertime, it's extremely dangerous to have a fire without proper procedures, and ultimately, I think we got to get the message out to the landlords. You've got to let your tenants know what the rules are.
I was just going to say that that the permit holder needs to be on site. The accountability needs to be at the end of the day with the person who lit the fire in the first place. So that's where having the renters having to take out a permit comes into play. I understand that there can be some issues with, well, how do you find the permit holder after that? Well, if there's been proper registration and if we had a fully digitized system, then you would know exactly which permits are active at that time for the renters. If they don't have it, the police could very easily check out a digitized system and say that this person does not have a valid permit. It can be a very easy centralized system, but we just need to move forward with it. But at the end of the day, the permit holder needs to be on site.
But that's not practical.
Sorry,
I mean, I'm renting the property.
Sorry, my son is permitted to have a fire on my property when I'm here attending a council meeting.
Only if he's on the permit itself.
Not at all. No.
I mean, that's not me speaking. That's our fire chief.
Yeah.
Families do that, Mike. They'll put all their adult children on the permit. We also have people who rent on a very regular basis on VRBO or whatever, who make sure their renters know that they have to fill out and do fill out their own forms. So, and that's all kept track of it at the fire hall, or Elaine at Public Works keeps track of all of that. So she knows when people get permits and what's been inspected, what has conditions.
But we're not making it mandatory in this permit.
We're not making it what?
We're not making it mandatory for renters to take out a permit. What we're saying with this permit is that we want the ultimate responsibility to come down on the permit holder, in other words, the landlord. But as our fire chief has pointed out, is that the permit holder has to be on site, or at least one of the permit holders needs to be on site tending to the fire. Right,
and that's in the form now, where the person taking out the permit is on the top, and if it's if they're renting, the owner's name is below them.
The owner's name is below them, but there's no requirement for the renters to take out the permit.
I think we're splitting hairs here. There is. If you're taking out the permit, if I'm renting your place and I take out the permit, my name is on the top.
Yeah.
name is going to be on the bottom.
And the revised form that we're looking at this evening, it does provide for the owner to accept responsibility for their renter and for anything else associated with the use of that pit.
And Brad did review it.
Yeah.
So, you know, it may never be
Could you
perfect.
provide some clarity? Are renters going to have to get a fire permit or not?
Many of them do.
Are they
But we're not
required
making it a
to get?
requirement.
If there's,
Many do, some choose not to.
But some residents choose not to. I mean, we want whoever's going to have a fire in a fire pit to get a permit. I don't know why it's important that it's a renter or the owner. It's the pit
We're
and
permitting
people
the
using it.
pit. Thank you.
The pit
We're
and
permitting the fact that the pit conforms to our regulations, that there is a source of water, that the pit is no closer than however many meters from a structure, that there is a fire extinguisher on hand. That is what the permit inspectors evaluate. They don't evaluate how fire smart or fire stupid you are, if I may be so bold.
but to be clear, you're saying that the most recent version of the fire permit requires the permit holder to be on site? Has that not been deleted?
No, it doesn't require the permit. The permit holder has to be on site, yes. Yes,
That's inconsistent because, you know, if someone rents their cabin out, they're not going to be physically at the pit.
I know, but on the permit form, it has at the top, person taking out the permit. So if I'm renting your cottage, that's my name. I'm taking out the permit. What's below that is the owner's name. So if we have any concerns or queries, we've got the owner's contact information as well.
So then the answer to my earlier question is you are requiring renters to get a fire permit.
Yes, I guess, yes.
No, they can't get a permit.
They can get a permit, yes.
Well, if they have a fire, then a permit holder must be on site tending to the fire.
Correct.
You know,
Yes,
I think we're creating a situation which is going to be extremely confusing for, you know, property owners and tenants. We have,
You're renting, you can.
I think Mike's got it right. We permit the pit, period.
but someone has to be responsible for when there's a fire.
Yeah, and then we regulate who's allowed to
Someone
use it.
the age of 18 or over must be attending the fire at all times.
Right, and that's what the permit says. That's what the information
Yeah.
says.
Okay.
So I think if you review the permit again, you'll see that it does allow for the renter to take out a permit or yourself to take out the permit as the property owner. And if you are not the property owner, that information is either on the top or the bottom.
So
You
if I
have
can
to be
just clarify,
responsible.
go ahead.
It's kind of
So-
muddied up the waters, folks.
So on the bottom of the permit, it says the original copy must be with the permit holder at site of fire. Should be at the site of the fire. But the original copy must be with permit holder at site of fire. So if you're a renter, then you have to take out a permit. It's not clear in this. Well, except if you read that one line.
Well, when I read that line, I interpreted that there must be a copy of the permit on site, not the permit holder. I mean, my fire permit is posted on the wall of my garage.
That's all we need. If someone makes a complaint and the police show up, you have to show your copy of a permit.
The owner doesn't have to be there.
Except that there's a line that says permit holder signature 4 lines above that.
There's a
And
line,
there's a list of people who are can also be a permit applicant. So it says name of permanent applicant. It gives three lines, as well as the name of the property owner, which gives 2 lines for it. So if you're not on that list and you have a series of renters coming through, if the renter's not on that list, then that violates the last line, which is original copy must be with permit holder at site of fire.
We're going around in circles, folks.
We're going
Yeah.
around in circles, and I have to say, the fire chief thought this was okay.
Yeah, I think
What
maybe
it does,
we
you know,
were
it says
with this.
name of permit applicant, if not the property owner, email address of the applicant, applicant's phone numbers. Then it asks for the property owner's name, the email address of the property owner, and the phone numbers. So if you're renting, take out a permit. If you're the owner, take out a permit. You may have 2 or 3 permits for one location.
So then we are saying that if you're a renter, that you have to take out a permit.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's not what you said 5 minutes ago.
I don't, maybe I'm confusing myself then, but this is the application that we're approving tonight that was redrafted from our last council meeting that our fire chief has approved as very workable and usable. So yes, we want the renter to take out a permit. Yes, we want the property owner to take out a permit. But if the renter is there for the entire season, the property owner is not going to take out a permit, right? So
the renter problem.
As long as the renters have to take out a permit, a separate permit, then I am 100% fine with this.
the renter should take out a permit.
I think it's
I just want to
understood.
understand what the rules are. And if the renter needs to take a permit out, fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I confused the matter. Yes, a renter should take out a permit. Whether you're there for the weekend or 2 weeks or 2 months.
Okay, you just said change that to must.
Must. Okay, well,
I think I can hear Brad's teeth grinding as we mull over this.
I think so too, as well as the people who are going to be watching this video.
Well, yes. Let's get it done. I do like the idea that Steve mentioned, perhaps for next year. Let's think ahead. There should be, I like the idea that there's a fee for the permit. Even the $1 or $5 changing hands is contractually binding.
As I had said earlier, if you charge for a permit, people are going to have fires, whether there's a ban or not, because darn it, I paid for my permit to have a fire and I'm going to have a fire. I think
I don't know
it's
that we need to start charging for
No.
permits.
Administrative fees are there for a reason, but anyway, that's something that we can discuss later because we're not going to be doing that in this permit.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's get this through.
Gentlemen, back to our original resolution. Be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council approve the fire pit permit form and information as revised. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Mike and Erwin. Carried. Thank you, gentlemen, for the discussion.
Thank you.
My apologies if I confused everybody. Their business.
Next year we got
How is Madam Mayor
another
voting?
cut, so we're all practiced up.
Pardon me? Yeah,
Excuse me, how did Madam Mayor vote?
I voted in favor. So the motion was carried. Okay, other business. Be it resolved that bylaw 1619, amending bylaw 1606, being the building bylaw, be given second reading. May I have a mover? Thank you. Steve, second. Thank you. And you may recall this was to update the building bylaw in regard to solar panels, which we did not have listed. Any discussion?
Forward.
Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Third reading, be it resolved bylaw 1619, amending bylaw 1606, being the building bylaw, be given third reading and pass. This will be a recorded vote. Moved by Mike, thank you. Seconded by Steve, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Brushing dates. Be it resolved that brush from deadfall can be put out on the road allowance in front of an individual's own property in the spring from May 1st to June 6th, 2021, and in the fall from September 13th to October 14th, 2021. May I have a mover? Mike, thank you. Second? Erwin, thank you. Discussion?
I mean, on my walks, I've noticed that people are already putting brush on the roadside. Folks, it's a dangerous practice. I know that people want to get down to the business of getting their properties ready to enjoy this summer, but please hold off until May 1st. The significant snowfall that we had just a week ago, if we would have had significant piles of brush, this could have posed a hazard to any kind of cleaning operations that may have gone on. Now, in this case, the snow just was not that it was practical to clear it. But we've got large machinery working on the roads in the winter and in winter conditions. So please keep your brush piles off the road until May 1st.
Anyone else?
I mean, I was checking the forecast, and yeah, there's unfortunately some more snow in the forecast. Otherwise, I would say that I would like to see that change, so then that way we can start to put the brush out now. But yeah, okay, I'm fine with the way it's written.
2 weeks away.
Yeah.
Right.
2 weeks. Wait 2 weeks.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Whereas the purchase of supplies, this is the Visa interim payment, whereas the purchase of supplies on the municipality's Visa corporate credit card precluded a late March transaction which would have exceeded the credit limit, and whereas a direct payment to Visa was immediately required from the municipality's operating bank account to provide available credit and enable purchases until the monthly card balance was paid, be it resolved that the arm of Victoria Beach Council ratify the direct payment of $10,000 made to Visa from the municipality's bank account on March 25th, 2021. May I have a mover? Erwin, thank you. Second? Graham, thank you. Any discussion?
Busy month.
Mike, do you want to speak to this, Raymond?
Well, we have a corporate credit card limit of 20,000. That's a global limit. And I think there's 5 or 6 cards out there.
All they all work
Designated
towards the
individuals.
same
Yeah.
limit.
And we had 2 very large purchases. One was the Generac generator for the Albert Beach pump house, which was purchased via Visa. Because that was the
Okay.
way the transaction had to be
Okay.
conducted.
All right.
Which was over $7,000. And then we had another large transaction involving Hack, which was for the chlorine analyzer at the Victoria Beach Water Treatment Plant. And
Yeah.
other accessories, which was another $7,000. We had EV chargers that I purchased using the corporate credit card, which was another $2,500. So when you did the math, there were some very large purchases, so it wouldn't process the one transaction.
The one at the end of the month. that you
Yeah,
need because you
so
had
we
nothing.
had, the only way we could free up credit limit was an immediate transaction through our bank rep at CIBC,
Mhm.
making a direct transaction to CIBC Visa to free up some credit limit. So that's what it's, I mean, we pay our credit limit, we pay our credit card off every month.
Yeah, it's always bills at the beginning
Yeah,
of the cycle.
Yeah, well, it was just a coincidence that these items required payment by credit card. They were urgent. So this resolution is in fact to ratify what Raymond has already been obliged to do. So I'm certainly in favor of that.
Legalize it.
Yeah,
It just
okay.
makes it legal. Right.
All right.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Right, bear-resistant residential garbage bins. Whereas the Arm of Victoria Beach Council proposes to
I
improve,
don't think you have to move this one.
Oh, yeah.
Revise it. Use that one.
use this one?
Yeah. Sent the
Okay.
revised one.
Sorry. Whereas the Arm of Victoria Beach Council proposes to improve the current system employed to provide garbage pickup from individual residences, specifically with respect to limiting the access to refuse by wildlife, in particular bears. And whereas the initial phase of the municipality's planned improvements to garbage handling is to implement a Bear Smart collection system, be it resolved that the Arm of Victoria Beach Council be on record that it plans to require the use of bear-resistant bins for all garbage put out for pickup from individual residences beginning in May 2022 as a first step in its Bear Smart initiative. And mover? Okay. And the second? Steve, thank you. And discussion. Mike, would you like
The
to?
initials? Just put the initials by Mike first. Just go ahead.
This is about humans and bears, but it's primarily about the bears in this first step. I don't know how many complaints that I've fielded about bears having to be captured, and unfortunately, since we all came to council, and numerous times before we came to council, there were cases of bears having to be destroyed because of our bad habits. And the time for bemoaning the destruction of bears is over. We have to start being active in terms of protecting the bears and keeping them an actual resource of the RM as opposed to a nuisance. So as a first step, I would like to address with the part of the whole collection chain where we see the most incidences of bears and other scavengers making a hell of a mess and becoming dependent on our garbage as a food source. And that is the curbside bins, unprotected curbside bins. We introduced bear-resistant bins last year, and we sold pretty much all of the first 100. We'll be ordering another 100 this year, and I would expect more than 100 this year as we start to give residents the options of which types of bear-resistant garbage containers they wish to use if they want to continue receiving curbside pickup service next year. We had a lot of success with the bear-resistant bins. We had a couple of bins that were breached or partially breached, but these bins are WildSafe certified, and WildSafe BC is a group that I was able to find that certifies bins for bear resistance, and they have different certifications for black bears and grizzly bears. We don't require the grizzly bear certification here, but the black bear certification is essentially the bins that are being tested for WildSafe certification are taken to a reserve in BC, and basically they are baited and given to a black bear or a grizzly bear, as may be the case. If the bin can hold up to an hour of attempted breach by the bear, it receives its certification. The two breaches that I was told of last year, I know for a fact that the bins were dragged up into the bush, and a bear had its way with that bin probably most of the evening into the wee hours until it finally actually got one side open. Never got the whole thing open.
No.
Open. Anyway, I compare this to some of the messes that I have seen with open top garbage cans plastic bags being left on the side of the road. And this practice has got to stop. Not only is it unsightly, and it is costly to the municipality, because our folks, when they're collecting, they have to pick this stuff up. And that means sometimes going onto private properties to pick up garbage that the bears have strewn throughout the area. It's time to put this practice to a stop. It's time to stop teaching these bears that our garbage is their food. And I think this is the first good step to, and not only for trained bears, but as bears lose their natural fear of humans because they develop a taste for our garbage, the chance of an unfortunate encounter between a bear and a human becomes greater and greater, and no one wants to see that happen.
Do you think it is a good idea to take orders on these bins?
Absolutely. There's actually a post on the Facebook page where there's my email, or you can leave me a message on the RM of Victoria Beach Facebook page. I have secured the same price this year for bins as last year.
That's $215.
$215 delivered. That's freight and taxes. But if you go to the Facebook site,
a lot of people don't have Facebook though. So what about those?
okay. What we should be doing is I have a link to WildSafe, the WildSafe website, and they actually have a list of different bear-resistant product manufacturers that people can go to and have a look at. What I'll do is I'll ask that a link to that same website be put on the web page, and we actually could just send that link out as part of Connect as well.
Or maybe we can put it in our update. Resident.
Oh, we can, yes, we can shuffle it into the resident update.
But if one wants to purchase a bin for next year,
Mhm.
do they go through the office or do they go through you?
There's no reason why they can't go through the office, because anytime I receive an order, I ensure that the office has a copy of it anyway.
Yeah, because they have to bill for it. Yeah.
So once, for instance, once we run out of the first 100, the next 100.
If it's looking like that's going to happen, I will pull the trigger on a second 100.
And maybe those second, we budgeted for the first 100. We haven't budgeted.
Mhm.
So we would have to get people to either prepay
Mhm.
or, we haven't budgeted for 500 bins.
That's right.
So once the next 100 are gone, I should say, maybe people will prepay for the next order.
Yeah.
But we can work that out.
Yeah.
There is a question on the floor. Erwin. Go ahead, Erwin.
Last summer, I had a chance to speak with our public works people who are responsible for, garbage collection, and they were very pleased with the new bins. They were pleased that council was finally taking some steps to develop some sort of a Bear Smart plan. And having seen some of the messes that they've had to clean up, I think this step is long overdue, and I sincerely hope that all of our residents will appreciate what we're trying to do, make the place cleaner, safer, and provide better working situations for our public works people.
Great, thank you. Graham? No?
I like it because it addresses the long-standing issue of, are we going to continue with house-to-house pickup? The answer is yes. And as of May of next year, you'll have to have an approved bear-resistant bin for that. And furthermore, it expands the pickup to all corners of our municipality. And I think that's an important step forward as well.
Should residents who don't normally get picked now register with Public Works?
They want it, yes.
If
Yeah,
they want,
if they want,
need
yes.
to register.
Yeah,
If you don't,
if you want to get picked up, get a bin.
get a bin and get registered with Public Works.
Finally tidies that up. Wonderful.
Great. Thank you for all your efforts on this, Mike and council.
Yes, thank you all.
So I will call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you very much. Okay. Be it resolved that the Arma Victoria Beach Council submit a request to Manitoba Infrastructure and Transportation to alter speed limits as follows. Now this is for discussion. PTH 59, reduced speed limit to, currently it is 70. Oh, yeah, 70, the section we're talking about. To 70 from,
250 if you want to reduce it. That's what I was like. It's
Mhm.
probably accept-
From 72.
What, no, what the reason the
250.
from is to do with
where, right?
what stretch of that highway are you asking for a reduced speed?
Okay, so until, we can't really fill in this resolution until we've decided on that.
Mhm.
So PTH 59, Raymond and I met with MIT 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we talked about reduced speed limits, and then council had that discussion as well. So on PTH 59, I think there was discussion about 59 504 intersections. So 59 from 504 west. Right now it's 70 all year long. There was some discussion about lowering it to 50. So this is where council comes in.
The whole stretch. No.
Well, it makes, on one hand, it makes sense in my mind to do 50 the whole stretch, because it's, what we measure, it's about
Maybe half a mile.
half a mile till you get to a tier road.
Yeah.
And then you've got less than half a mile before you get to the parking lot.
Mhm.
So if you've got 70 as you're going to make the turn, made the turn, and then you say reduce speed ahead to 50, why not just keep it 50 instead of saying
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
think
I like
a
that.
better solution, because I mean, ultimately the only danger there is a tier road is just to put up a simple crossing, a crossway there, in which case you can still have B70. Everybody can very clearly see that people are being ready to cross. You can have it where it's solar powered and flashing lights, and then you maintain the same speed through. There's quite a few examples of that type of a system working. So I think rather than reducing speed that entire stretch, that would be a much better solution personally.
The sight lines on 59, eastbound and westbound, are clear for a mile. And I've never seen or heard of even a close event in the intersection. What I do like the idea of is 300 meters before the gate, when you are going to come to a stop, and we have the gate, we have the parking lot. Okay, it makes sense to me that 200 yards, 200 meters before the parking lot and the termination of 59, let's make it 50 kilometers an hour where we need it, where there are people standing around, walking, congregating, that sort of thing. Absolutely, 100%.
What about
I'm
all
fine
the
with that.
in for the market though? There's a lot of cars come in for the market, or for things going on at the community.
And
hub.
Everything goes like a ballet there. I've
No, I
witnessed it
know.
firsthand.
But my comment is there is a lot of traffic, and then there's cyclists, and there's walkers, and there's dogs, and there's
The
also,
cyclists are nowhere near that driveway. They're coming in from the path from the VRA.
okay, but then there's also the All Right business, lots of trucks going in and out of there. Steve?
No, I was pointing at Graham. On my screen, he's below me.
Oh,
On my screen, you're below me. I wonder why you're pointing. Whatever.
okay,
I
great.
have a comment, please. The easiest, the cheapest, the simplest, without any extraneous expense, is to reduce the speed limit to from 70 to 50 when you make the turn. Period. That whole run up to the gate should be 50 all the way. There's really no good reason to break it up or segment it. Reduce to 50 when you turn the corner. Finito.
All year round?
No, this is when the 70. This is only when the 70 applies to that section of.
70 always applies to
Yeah,
that.
Sunday
That
always
section
applies.
59 is always 70.
Yeah. Okay.
I honestly don't see the safety risk aside from sure the market and I guess summer winds, but summer winds the police always shut down that that section of road and they're now redirecting around. So I don't see the safety issue there really, because if you just simply put a crossway that, and because ATIA is only the one and only safety issue. So if you had a crosswalk there, that takes that issue away. I do like Mike's suggestion of sort of as you're approaching the gate area. I mean, we just spent quite a bit of money fixing up that trail that goes past Public Works and goes right along that section. I think that the more that people realize that that trail is good for walking and cycling and everything else, that you're not going to have people using the highway anymore. So I really don't see much use in changing the speed limit that whole stretch. Although, as I said, I do like the idea of maybe like 100 meters before the gate, changing that to 50. That makes some sense to me.
I'd like to keep it simple, the whole stretch down to 50, Mike, and that applies when the seasonal restriction comes into place on the speed zone. When it extends on 504, I mean the timing is a natural. Everybody understands that. The flags are there. You gotta slow down. And let's slow them down a little bit more when they make that 90-degree turn.
I think one of the comments I have is it's always 70 on that stretch.
Mhm.
It's never any different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always 70. Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about pedestrians and cyclists, but it's not just pedestrians and cyclists. At the ATIA Road intersection, there's a social scene. There's our fire service, there's our public works, there's our police. And then if you talk about maybe doing something with your new garbage depot kind of area, you're gonna have more traffic, but you're gonna have cross traffic trying to get on 59 highway. And if you turn at 504 and 59 and you're heading towards the vehicle restricted area, by the time you get to 70, you're at ATIA Road. So you race the ATIA Road at 70 and then you got to drop to 50.
Yeah, should be all the way.
It's not a long stretch of road to be going 50 right through. It's not even a mile.
Going to get the mail in the morning is going to be painful.
Well, you might be surprised.
But it's council's call. I'm just saying it's not just pedestrians and cyclists. There's a lot of cross traffic.
Yeah.
Not a lot of cross traffic.
You got fire coming out of there, you got police coming out of there, you got public works coming out of there. And you got the DB community center and the social scene on the other side. Like right now there isn't, but in a normal year.
Special events where police control the traffic at social scene and the community center, no problem. You're going to get your control. Clear line sites when those emergency vehicles come out of that fire station lit up and loud. You can't help but see them. You're going to slow down.
It's council's call. I'm just making the point that it's more than pedestrians and cyclists.
You're gonna get to your destination 10 seconds later.
Yeah. There's walkers and joggers on both sides of that stretch. Every time I make that 90-degree left, I wonder why am I still allowed to go 70? This seems excess.
Well, again, though, that's the reason why we made why we improved that trail so much, right? Is to try to redirect the walkers and cyclists. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not that it's just a little bit more time. As I said, I don't see the safety concern. And as for when the fire comes out, it's very easy to set up light systems so that when when you have emergency crews that are going out, then the lights start flashing on a crossway. They have that set up all through cities everywhere. So I mean, I don't know. As I said, I just don't see the safety need there, except for maybe a crosswalk. I think that would be much safer than just simply reducing it to 50, and hopefully nobody's going to not see a pedestrian who's crossing the street.
But if you put in a crosswalk, then people are going to have to hit the brakes for the crosswalk when they're going 70.
When you turn the lights on, yeah.
When they're going 70.
I doubt that Manitoba infrastructure is going to be open to putting a crosswalk on a highway.
I don't think they're going to be open to 50.
Well, and the argument that you could probably use 2 or 3 crosswalks. Erwin, please.
This is a compromise. It strikes me that to drop the speed at the junction of 504 and 59 to 50 is a little unnecessary, but why not start the reduced speed around about 100 meters east of the social scene? And that would provide some protection for a tier road and the social scene and the community center. 100 meters east of there would be reasonable. Drop it down to 50.
100 meters east of there. Well, you're only maybe 300 meters from the corner at that point.
Yeah.
I think it's a little longer than that. It's longer than 300 meters.
Well, good discussion, but we're not getting any closer to what about a reduced speed limit to 60 then? Is that a compromise we can live with? I just don't think that 2 different speed limits on that road makes a lot of sense.
No.
But I'm with Graham. Keep it simple. I think Mike's right. We might get some heat for lowering it to 50. Could we live with 60, which I have noticed if you go down Highway 8 or Highway 9 to Winnipeg Beach, Chimney, I think it's most often 60 through the towns. So
Well, the speed limit in the city of Winnipeg is 50 unless otherwise posted. So
yeah, Kenny, as you drive to Lac du Bonnet and communities around here, you get a 60 before you enter the town, and then you get a 50 as you're entering the town. I'm suggesting that as soon as you turn that corner, you are on the verge of entering Victoria Beach. There's really no need to step on the gas having rounded the corner. To bring yourself back up to 70. You got to slow down to make the darn turn. Stay that way.
right.
I
Okay.
would agree with Graham on that now.
Thank you, Steve. Erwin.
All right. So would you agree, Erwin, with a 50 kilometer, 60 kilometer?
I think 50 would be my preference because, again, there's a lot of traffic, both vehicle and pedestrian and cyclists in that area, in and around the community center. So, the highway department is not going to put a crosswalk in on a highway. So, someone decides to move out, the drivers, if they're doing 50, they got a reasonable chance of stopping. If they're doing 60 or 70, it just decreases that ability to stop in time.
Yep.
50 is kind of a common number for residential areas.
Yep.
That's not a residential area.
I was actually just about to say that. Like
It's approaching a residential area.
So put it to 50 at the residential area at the end of 59.
Well, we do have people living on both sides of 59 there.
Oh yeah, and there's.
So let's, this is a request to Manitoba Infrastructure and Transportation. They may come back and say 50 is too low. They may recommend 60. They may recommend we stay at 70. They may say, thank you for asking. We're not going to change it. So
Yep.
I think I'm hearing 50 from Graham, 50 from Erwin. Mike is a 70-50.
I side more with Mike's idea. But for me, I don't think that you're really dealing with the safety issue unless you put some sort of crossway across that corner. And I mean, as you said, there's no harm in asking highways whether or not they would do that. I think that's a perfectly reasonable request, and then you're not changing the speed limit. You don't have the issue of having to change the speed year over year, and you're directly addressing the one and only actual safety concern, because people should be using the trail, which we can just do a little bit more advertising to redirect them, and they won't feel the need to go down the highway, which is dangerous as is. So I just don't. I really don't understand this whole desire to reduce it down to 50.
Well, Mike, there's walkers and joggers on both sides of that highway.
And
That's why we have the trail.
But you can't ride that trail on a road bike.
Yep.
And there are many people who ride road bikes at Victoria Beach and go for many, many kilometers every day.
Yep.
Well, they drive it up and down 504. So should we reduce all of 504 to or all the 59 and 504? So
that's next on the resolution.
Please, Steve.
That's next on the resolution.
Yep.
Well,
So
59 goes all the way to Safi's. So I mean, since the bikers go all the way down that way, why don't we reduce the whole thing to 50? If that's your actual concern.
The concern is from the turn west.
Yep.
Well, the concern is for the bikers, apparently, the road
No,
bikers.
no.
There's walkers, joggers, ladies with children in strollers back and up and down all the time. Well, mostly during the summer season, of course, but keep it simple.
Walkers with 2 dogs. People are so wonderful the way that they will actually slow down if there's a vehicle coming for me, or they will go to the far lane and give me a full lane before going back into their proper lane.
Yep.
The courtesy is marvelous.
Yep, I agree.
But you've got to slow down to 25 or 30 to make that, or less, to make that hard 90-degree left turn. What possesses you to stomp on your gas to bring it back to 70 for another 100 or 200 yards before you're obliged to slow down? That's why I like the idea of keeping it simple. Thank you.
All right. We've had lots of discussions. So in terms of this portion of the resolution, I am hearing reduced speed limit to 50 kilometers on PTH 59 from the 504 59 intersection west.
Right.
Next up is the PR 504 reduced speed limit. So right now, PR 504 is 70 the whole way. Some discussion arose about whether that should be changed. Is there
again, if our safety concern is truly the bikers and the walkers and the joggers and the exact same people who would be using 59, then why don't we start talking about making all of 504 50? I'm only trying to compare apples to apples. If that's our safety concern, then those same stakeholders are using that same stretch of highway.
I don't think there's anywhere near the same amount of pedestrian or cyclists on that stretch north on 504, north of the junction of 59 and 504.
And currently 59 from in the summer, right? From Safi north, 59 to 504 is 70. So you're going to ask to lower the speed limit north of the 59 turn.
To 70.
Okay. Right now it's 70. Highway 504 is 70.
504 is 70.
So is Highway 59 southbound.
That's correct.
In the summer.
So again, I ask, what is the safety concern here that we're looking at reducing the speed limit of 504?
Mm-hmm.
One of our residents commented after hearing our last council meeting that there is a lot of traffic and turnaround and people on both sides of the north end of 504. So perhaps lowering the speed limit.
Again, that's right. For the last couple hundred meters of 504 north, reduce it to 50. Absolutely, 100%.
So where,
Do it where it's,
right, so where?
Probably at the
right
cemetery.
around
Cemetery.
So the cemetery, Macaulay Road,
Even before the cemetery.
Macaulay's a good spot.
Yeah.
the
Slow 'em
cemetery.
down from there. Yep.
Oh, the cemetery's at Macaulay, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's 50 feet away. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying 50, reduce the speed limit to 50 from Macaulay Road north.
North. Yeah.
Yeah, to the end of 504.
Olafson.
To Olafson Hampton.
Because it's not too far after that, you start getting into folks who park on the shoulder to use the
Did we not put a request into Manitoba Infrastructure to make that section no parking? I thought we did a little while ago.
No,
I may be incorrect, but I thought that we had.
during our discussion, they agreed to leave parking on the west side of 504, where it is now. And they thought that they were going to look at allowing some parking on the east side, provided it didn't, there was enough room for people to get by. Because there are an awful lot of vehicles parked on that west side with trailers and boats and stuff.
I think we had expressed our preferences, and they more or less said they'd think about it.
Yeah. They're not going to be improving the shoulders.
Nope. Okay, so let's do it for slowing them down at Macaulay.
All right. Be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council submit a request to Manitoba Infrastructure and Transportation to alter speed limits as follows. PTH 59, reduce speed limit to 50 kilometers from the intersection of PTH 59 and PR 504 west to 8th Avenue. PR 504, reduce speed limit to 50 kilometers from Macaulay Road north to the intersection of Olafson and Hampton. May I have a mover?
I'll move that.
Graham, thank you. Second, Erwin, thank you. Any further?
Sorry, I just feel that these two should be separate because I don't approve the first part of this resolution, but the second part, I'm completely in, like, I don't know the north end nearly as well as Mike does. So I have an option of either voting in favor of the person who knows more about the north end than I do, or abstaining because I don't know enough about that section. I'm more inclined to vote in favor of 504 because I'll go with Mike's knowledge of the area, but the 59 path, that I can't support at all, which means that I'm going to not support this resolution.
Or abstain,
Well, I can't abstain because I do not agree with the change that we're doing to path 59.
all right.
We're nanny stating here.
I mean, I'm not quite,
On a boo-boo that isn't there.
All right, what does council feel about this resolution? It is on the table. We've had plenty of discussion. Are we going to go ahead? Graham?
Well, you've got a mover
Yes, and a seconder.
Mhm.
and a seconder.
Call for the vote, Madam Mayor, please.
I will do that. All those in favor of this resolution?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? 2. The motion is carried. Thank you for a good discussion. Remember, this is just a request. We'll see what Manitoba Infrastructure has to say. Next up, be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council approved the Municipal Service Delivery Improvement Program application proposing the completion of a land and site evaluation of existing and future municipal facilities. May I have a mover? Mike, thank you. Second? Steve, thanks very much. This was something that we lost Erwin. He'll be back. This was something that came to my attention. It is basically a free program, a free livery improvement program through the government of Manitoba. And you can fill out a very simple application form.
Simple till the last section.
Simple until the last section. So I was stuck on the last section, which refers to a return on investment. In the meeting I attended yesterday on this application, they don't expect many of us to have that information. Instead, we can go down to the estimated service delivery improvements.
Right.
So I just needed clarification on that. I would like to have our Public Works Fire police area reviewed so that we know when we're planning an expansion of the fire hall, improving the garbage and recycling, a new police and a new municipal building, that we're putting them in places that are the right places, because I don't know for sure.
Yep.
And I would really like to have someone come in and do an assessment and say, yes, it should be here, move those wood chips, leave the wood chips. Whether we're successful or not remains to be seen, but the government provides the consultant and all of their fees are paid by the government. You are then given a report after lots of consultation. The report will be made public, so whether you act on it or you choose not to act on it at the time, the report is still public so that the public can see what has been recommended. Graham?
It'd be a great plan.
Yeah.
The first page of the application clearly specifies that a copy of a municipal council resolution indicating support for the proposed review, and I think that's the first thing we should be able to deal with this evening without any further delay, acrimony.
And I'm asking, I asked for this to be on the agenda because this has to be in by April 30th, and we do not meet until May the 4th.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, any further questions or discussion?
I'm sure we're all more than happy to help with the ORI
I
improvements.
will pass it around.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you very much. And this will continue on. It's a $5 million program over a period of years, and you can apply more than once.
Yeah, and if it can help us to get it right with some of our future plans, wonderful.
Yeah, so next on the list, be it resolved that the Arm of Victoria Beach Council approve the quote from Safe Haven Builders to build a second ramp at the bakery at a cost of $6,650 plus applicable taxes. May I have a mover?
We'll move this.
Boy, Mike, thank you, and Steve, thank you.
Thank you.
Graham, would you like to discuss this?
Yes, this is one of a number of projects that we're endeavoring to put a price on. This particular one, when I submitted my request to have this resolution put on the agenda, that was contained within an email message, which hopefully councillors have had a chance to review. And it talks about the urgency of attending of dealing with this. The volatility of the material prices means that the validity of Safe Haven's quote is really not much more than a week. I've spent a fair amount of time with Rod and also with Wolf reviewing the sketches, the details, this and that. I finally got a number out of them just before noon today, and I'd like to strike while the iron is hot, and I would appreciate council's support of this resolution.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Any discussion or questions?
It's well within the budget, I understand it. And with the 3/4 inch plywood going at $96 a sheet right now, let's nail this down and get it done.
And Graham, this will result in, I will get to you, Erwin, in another ramp at the front of the bakery or along the front of the bakery.
That's right. Exactly. There's a secondary ramp going in. We started out last year looking at modifying the upper landing. We looked at that up and down, and Erwin was there with me on one occasion. We couldn't figure out how on earth we could do it without it making the building look stupid. And then we learned that Brad had heard from safety or health people that the traffic was supposed to be one way through there. So that nailed it down to let's forget about revising the upper ramp. Let's just provide a secondary one so traffic can move smoothly in and out, back and forth. So this killed two birds with one stone, and then we scrambled to find somebody who was willing to give us a number to do the work. So it's been a bit of a process, but I'm happy that I think we've come to the right conclusion.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Graham? All right, all those in favor? Carried.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, Graham. All right.
Nick of time. It was tense there this morning. Sort of like Raymond and I on that damn generator. Oh, right up there last. Okay.
All right. Moving on to correspondence. Is there anything on your plates, gentlemen? In your emails, Erwin?
A couple of items. I received an inquiry from one of our residents asking about the where the swing gates were going to be located, and I'd forward that on to Raymond. Any word back on where these gates are actually going to be installed, Raymond?
No, I don't have a precise answer yet from.
Okay. So, but once we get that, then we'll be in a position to let our constituents know. The second question was just a shout out from Helmut Hess. The social scene is looking for a treasurer. I said I would volunteer after my term as councillor ended, but they need somebody sooner than that. So if anyone's interested and has some accounting skills, please feel free to contact Helmut, and your efforts would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Mike?
A lot of requests to know when we're going to update our speed limit signs, our residential speed limit signs. We bought a whole whack of signs last year. Councillors went around their own areas and identified where the signs need to go. And I would surmise, I don't know, maybe you know better, but I would surmise that once the process is completely out of the ground, the boys will get out there and start pounding them in.
I'll contact them again as a reminder.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything?
No, everything was pretty quiet for me. So, yeah.
Graham? Lucky you.
Penny, in the way of correspondence email, would you like to comment on the one concerning the zebra mussel presentation on the 27th?
Yes, thank you. That's on my list. We did receive an email from an East Beaches group about a zebra mussel information meeting on April 27th at 7 p.m. And I did notice that there were a few of us on the list. I don't think it's imperative that we all go, but it would sure be nice to have someone. And I believe Mike volunteered in that.
Yep.
That doesn't mean you can't also attend, but okay. And I sent some information out to council that we received from the Arm of Alexander about what they have done previously and the cost and the costs involved.
Frightening.
They're frightening.
This is going to be volunteer effort.
Yeah.
And there are. Go ahead, Steve. No, it's
No, that's okay. No, okay. I was just going to say that I think that we should be taking a look pretty soon at a sand sifter, because if we need to start maintaining the beaches, it'll be a hefty expense up front, but long term it'll save a lot of money. It'll be far more efficient to sift them all out There are some really interesting genetic manipulation techniques that have come out of some of the universities, but they're still not approved yet to eradicate the species. So in the meantime, if it ever gets to that point, then if we went along with the sand sifter, it would allow us to clean up our beaches pretty easily every day.
That's a good point, Steve, but we're still waiting for the province to clarify what we're allowed to do or not do with the different things.
We're not legally allowed to touch them, but we can get special dispensation.
We can bury them.
You can bury them at the back of the beach, is my understanding.
Yeah, that's right. Decompose their ugly.
Yeah, you're not supposed to transport them. No. I'm not sure what the shape of our beaches are like at this point. I know a few years ago it was scary.
The Sandy Bay Beach is still there. You can tell where they've been brought in and hung up on logs and such.
And I think Elk Island has some patches, and I know Pelican Point had some big piles. But I appreciate it if you will attend and I'd like to advise residents that hydro is back in the vehicle restricted area. They're going to be finishing their project and clearing out back lanes and under hydro lines. And a reminder that those lanes and areas that have been brushed by hydro are still municipal property, and they're not to be driven on or walked up. They are left in their natural, as much as in their natural state. The brushing. And I think hydro would be there for about 2 weeks, 10 days. 10 days?
Revision, I think it was 12 days.
Other than that, many members of council attended some of the AMM sessions last week.
Oh, yeah.
I have to say it was nice to be able to attend them virtually from the comfort of my own home or cottage instead of traveling to and from Brandon. It would have been through a snowstorm again.
Yeah.
Had we had to go to Brandon. Not that I don't mind going to Brandon, but it was nice to do it this way, and I thought it worked quite well. The sessions were informative as always.
Very quickly, it is for 12 days, so
Okay.
they should be wrapping up the 29th. Hydro will be wrapping up the 29th.
And a reminder that our financial plan hearing is May the 4th at 6 p.m. And there is a notice on our website
And on Facebook.
and on Facebook. If you wish to make a presentation, you will have to do it virtually, and you must register in advance with the office. If you wish to send in a written submission, you may also do that by email or by letter. A copy of the financial plan is available for review on our website, and there are hard copies in the office. So that is all I have.
I did just have one thing, which is the same thing that I've said the last several meetings, which is just go get your COVID-19 vaccine. The fastest way that we can get back to normal is to go get vaccinated. This is absolutely no time for anti-vaxxers. Not that any time is good for an anti-vaxxer. The bottom line is that a vaccine is the safest form of medication that is available for anybody at any time. There's no connections between vaccines and any sort of diseases. In terms of the latest Johnson & Johnson scare, where 6 women had developed blood clots, one of the things that you need to understand about vaccines is that after somebody is injected with a vaccine in any sort of trial, and there's a mass trial of the entire globe right now, then anything that comes up after that is listed as a potential side effect. The other thing is that if you take a look at it, it is literally one in less than, more than 1 million, because it was 700 shots that went into arms, and there were only 6 people who actually got had a blood clot. And just to put that into perspective, women's birth control, the likelihood of getting a blood clot from that is 1 in 1,000. So these are unbelievably safe medicines. And if you want to be hugging your grandparents or your parents, and you want your parents or your grandparents to be hugging you, then go get a vaccine, toss it in your arm, and let's finally get rid of this plague that we've been living through.
Thank you. All right. Any other discussion? Be it resolved, the April 20th, 2021 regular council meeting be adjourned. Next regular council meeting to be held on May 4th, 2021 at 6 p.m. at 705 1661 Portage Avenue in Winnipeg. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second? Erwin, thank you. All in favor?
All right,
Carried. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
thank you. Good evening.
Good night.